All good? You guys ready? Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at the Ukraine Pavilion here at COP28. Welcome to day 5 at COP. My name is Olga Hakova. I am a deputy director at the Global Energy Center at Atlantic Council. I run our European energy security work, and it's a pleasure to moderate today's robust event where we'll have an exciting announcement. At the same time, we will also have a robust panel discussion following the announcement. First of all, I just want to introduce a quick video that will summarize some of the horrific damages that were done to Ukraine in the way that Ukraine has dealt and addressed with these horrific events, this aggression by Russia. The worst parts of it, of course, is the attacks on the civilian infrastructure. As we recently remember the terrible events of the Kakhovka Dam and the implications it had on the environment and the communities. However, Ukraine has showcased once again bravery, resilience, innovation, and believing in the future and investments in its communities by investing in clean energy projects in midst of the war. While we're seeing multiple projects canceled all around the world or postponed, Ukraine, while fighting for its life, was able to not only build out this project, but also we'll talk later today about the announcement of the expansion of the farm. But first of all, allow me to introduce a quick video that will summarize this in a much better way than I ever could, please. Congratulations to ＤТЕК. This stands for leading by example on investing in clean energy projects in Ukraine. As you know, as we're in the midst of discussions about reconstruction and what a green building that better reconstruction looks like. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Commissioner for Energy, Her Excellency Kadri Simpson, to talk about how Ukraine's clean energy investments, clean energy infrastructure, how that will enhance Ukraine's integration with Europe, with European energy systems, and contribute to broader climate goals. Commissioner, please.
Thank you, and good morning. It is my honor to witness today signing of MOU between NESCAR and DTEK, and I still believe that this is an act that shows our commitment to help Ukraine to build up better and to be ready for the news that I hope we will receive in the coming weeks. So, despite the fact that Russians have started again attacking civil infrastructure, despite the severe weather conditions and snowstorms, I do believe that September will bring good news, and next week our leaders can endorse the European Commission's proposal to launch negotiations with Ukraine. This is a testament that the Ukrainian government and parliament have done significant work to align our legislation but nothing will change unless enterprises on the ground will implement what was agreed. And this is what you are doing. From our side, we are sure that as long as it takes, we will stand by Ukraine. We will help you to take care of your own energy consumption. And one day there will be a significant market, common market, single market that needs all the renewable energy that you will be able to produce. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for your excellent remarks. It is my distinct pleasure to now welcome virtually Ukraine's Energy Minister, Roman Halushenko, who will discuss the significance of this project.
Thank you very much, and hello to everyone. Dear Kadri, glad to see you virtually. First of all, of course, it's important event, and the importance of the events like today is that we are showing that during the war we are not stopping, and that is, I think, very important. I mean, that is a signal to the future. That is a signal, and that is the signal for our victory. Because if we are managed to realize the project during the war, and that is already we are discussing another phase of this project, and the first phase was implemented this year, at the beginning of this year. And I think it's very important also in the way of our energy strategy that the development of renewables is really a very key part of our strategy for the future. And as a country at war, we understood that the green transition and the renewables, that is something more than just the issue of generation of electricity or the issue of ecology. That is something more. That is the issue of national security. Because as much as you can implement the projects like this, the more independent you will be. And that is the answer not only to Ukraine. That is the lessons which we got in Ukraine, but it's very important also for the Europe. And of course, we understand that, so we need to do a lot of work together, and I'm very grateful to Kadri again for all support you provided to us. And so we need to do a lot of things like the integration of the markets and a lot of work to do together. But very important that we are showing that we have the solidarity. This solidarity is only strengthened from day to day, and even on the eve of another massive attacks to the energy infrastructure, we are looking ahead. We are looking ahead, and we are really thinking about tomorrow. We are thinking how the energy mix in Ukraine would be in the future, what we can do, how quickly we could do this. And I think that is very important, and that is absolutely in line of President Zelensky messages that Ukraine would be the energy hub for Europe. I think that's very important. And with this all support you provided to us, with this with this collaboration between state and private companies in Ukraine in the energy sector, it's give us strength also inside Ukraine. So it gives us possibility, really, we show the resilience of Ukraine energy system, not only because of some technical issues or the project or the generation or transmission. Let's say the strength of Ukrainian energy system is in Ukrainian people, in Ukrainian energy staff, no matter whether it's state or private, which are in collaboration and cooperation. So we are ready to fight, we are ready to develop, we are ready to bring innovation, and we are ready to transform our market in accordance with European rules. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister. It's an honor to hear your remarks virtually. Slava Ukraini. And it's my pleasure to introduce the CEO of ДТЕК. For many of you already know, ДТЕК is the largest energy company, private energy company in Ukraine. And Mr. Timchenko will be able to provide some additional.
Good morning. Great pleasure for me to be here, and a special day for us and for this day altogether. First of all, a lot of thanks to our Minister Galushenko and President Zelensky for their vision to build new decentralized energy system in Ukraine. And especially now during the war, it's extremely important in terms of energy security. And we already see that even more decentralized capacity can keep lights on in Ukraine. But the second, the fact that we're already European, and I really appreciate, Commissioner, for your presence here, and we share vision of European President, European Commission about triple of renewables capacity by 2030. We are in. And we are doing now in Ukraine. Today, we would like to announce agreement which we reached with Vestas, our long-term partner in building wind farms in Ukraine. We made very important breakthroughs to continue construction of 500 megawatt wind farm in Ukraine. It will become the largest wind farm in Eastern Europe. We increase from the size of 90 to 83 turbines, 6 megawatt turbines, and will be producing 1.7 terawatt hours of power, decreasing 1.7 million tons of CO2 annually, and provide green energy to 900,000 households. And all of this happened during. I think only this project can demonstrate that everything is possible. These projects bring our victory faster. So I'm really thankful to you, to Henrik, CEO of Vestas, for all the trust and support. We made important decision to build it now, and I'm sure that in 2 years' time we can do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Timchenko. It's my great pleasure to introduce the other partner of this project, Mr. Morten Trihol, who is the Senior Vice President at Vestas.
Thank you. Have really put into words what they found. None of them eyes together transcendence the partners we have. This is really a proof of what we can do together against horrible aggression. We still manage to find a way. And if that's not partnership, then what is partnership really? Your vision in ДТЕК and yours, Maxim, is an inspiration. And we are honored to be your supplier and work with you. I told you when we walked in here that sometimes a business deal is not just a business deal. This is something we do with our hearts, investors. And I can guarantee you that we will always have your back and our partnership will be strong. And what we do today is a real action point that we can actually manage to deal with climate change, build energy resilience for Ukraine, and build our partnership stronger despite the horrible aggression from Russia. So thank you so much, and I really, really look forward to the signing today. Thank you. So probably we forgot to mention that the cost of this project, 450 million euro. Investments in Ukraine during the war, and this is how we bring our victory.
Commissioner, would you mind joining Commissioner?
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I think this is your control.
Yes. We are going to
Yes,
inaugurate.
yes, I will join the inauguration. I think in 2 years, we should be all meeting on this side when we finish this project, and Ukraine will win this war, and we all celebrate it together.
So on top of this windmill, we will wave Ukrainian and EU flag.
We have a deal.
Congratulations. May I ask the panelists to please join me on stage here? Director General? Yep. Oh, he's sitting over here. That's perfect. All right. It is my pleasure to kick off this exciting panel. I know that Director General is in a very tight schedule, so please allow me to just jump right in if you don't mind. Director General Jorgensen, it's such an honor to have you here, to have such strong representation from the Commission. I mean, mic is not working, but this means a lot. And please, we look forward to your welcoming remarks to set the scene for the discussion that we will be having for the next hour.
I hope, yes, it does work. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here following the speech of Commissioner Kadri Simpson just now, and to be invited with this impressive panel. Congratulations on the project to Vestas and DTEK. Very, very impressive, and completely aligned with what we are doing jointly, Ukraine and the EU and partners. We are here at the COP28. And I think there's no better setting to talk about our common future, our common energy future, and our energy security. We have, together with Ukraine, the United States, and many other partners, launched a global pledge to triple renewable energy and double energy efficiency improvements between now and 2030. And that is the pathway we are going together with Ukraine to decarbonize, to make sure that we respect our Paris agreement to lower greenhouse gas emissions and stay within the 1.5 degrees, but also to make sure that we have a secure common energy system. So what we have seen over the last more than a year and a half since the Russian invasion into Ukraine has been a growing global partnership, but also a strong European-Ukrainian partnership for energy transition, and for energy security, leading to much stronger cooperation, more energy trade, with the European Union being the European Union and member states being the biggest supporter of Ukraine in terms of financial support, and the closest collaborator in terms of our common energy market that is now completely synchronized and integrated. And that is just one step on the pathway. We know that Ukraine is an accession country and really part of Europe. So we look forward to joining you even more closely with us in the coming years. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good event here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Director General. Such a pleasure to have you here, to host you here. It is my pleasure to jump right into our panel discussion and introduce the Deputy Minister of Energy of Ukraine, Svetlana Hrinchuk. If you don't mind, we will start off the conversation with you. The last 20 horrific months of attacks on civilian energy infrastructure and the destruction of both transformers, but also capacity, have posed tremendous unprecedented challenges for Ukraine. Have some of those challenges been resolved in terms of the, being able to fix and secure some of the transformers, being able to fix some of the capacity? Could you talk us through about where Ukraine is at going into this winter, and what else the Western partners can do to scale up support where it's really needed?
Thank you very much. It's okay, yes? Yeah. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you for organizing this event today. Thank you to Mr. Timchenko for support this Ukrainian pavilion. It's a big success, I think, for this COP28. And for Ukraine, the minister, he wants to participate the COP28, but we know now we have in Ukraine very difficult period. We have Russians, they started their attacks again on energy infrastructure. And we have also very difficult weather conditions. In addition, not like here in Dubai, but I think this winter for Ukrainian people and our partners will be not easy. Now we are ready with generation capacity for cover all our demands, but we don't know what Russians plan, how massive the attack will, and what destruction we will have after this winter season. Since 10th October of 2022, we lost more than 50% of our generation capacity. Russians destroyed our transmission systems, but we are doing the biggest repair campaign during this summer, and now we are ready. I think for this winter we did a lot for protect our energy infrastructure with active and passive defense, and I am very grateful to our partners, international partners, especially US and European Union, for provided us the air defense system. It's a big support and the better protection of our energy system. But despite the war, and yes, we have a lot of challenges before this winter season, but first thing that I want to highlight that Ukraine is committed to green recovery. And we acknowledge the crucial link between political will and tracking the sustainable financing. That is why the Ministry of Energy demonstrate this commitment at the highest political level. And I think that the minister and also President Zelensky and Prime Minister, they committed that for Ukraine, green recovery is future. The ministry is putting its efforts in establishing a strategic framework for a green recovery, including outline of key rules, developing strategies and concepts. It's also very important. For instance, in July this year, the Verkhovna Rada adopted the new green transition law. This legislative initiative became a result of joint work between the ministry and members of parliaments, and it introduced new rules and stimulations for green energy and on competition-based market. And another recent example is development the guidelines for attracting sustainable finances to the energy sector. And we are going to present this document by the end of this year to our partners, to our energy companies. And I think this document, it includes a list of main requirements and criteria of leading international financial institutions, potential partners and investors, which is necessary to obtain sustainable financing for the green energy project. Also, together with our UK partners, we are working to develop the new government document, which calls Green Taxonomy, and we understand that Green Taxonomy, implementing Green Taxonomy in Ukraine is also very important for attracting the sustainable financing. We have already collected a range of promised projects to become a showcase for Ukraine's dedication to implementing the green initiatives within the energy sector. And today's example, I think, is the best example of this. And the tech demonstrates that during the war, the private business stayed to implement, to develop their business in Ukraine and to attract the international support and finance for Ukrainian development and for energy development in Ukraine. And we have a lot of initiatives and a lot of legislative initiatives and a lot of, we're doing a lot for attracting the sustainable finance, for showing to our partners that we are ready to develop, to increase our green energy, to be ready for cooperation between our countries. And I think that we are ready to continue this discussion with our partners together with our private business.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister. It's my pleasure to introduce our next panelist, Ambassador Jeff Hyatt, who is Assistant Secretary of Energy Resources at the U.S. Department of State. Ambassador Hyatt, thank you so much for being clean energy and decarbonization, of course, at the top of President Biden's agenda with IRA and a slew of other policies that we've seen over the last several years. How can U.S. and Western partners support Ukraine in addressing some of the biggest challenges, and Deputy Minister has mentioned some of them, that are both world-related and are also that existed before this war?
Thanks, Olga. And let me say what an honor it is to be here this morning. Minister, let me start by congratulating you, but also Maxime Vestas on the signing ceremony for the expansion of the Tbilisi facility. It was very evocative for me. Maxime will remember this. I think it probably would have been in the spring of 2016 that I visited Mariupol. And we flew into Zaporizhia, and then you have to drive east along the Azov coast. And it was springtime, so everything was green. The fields were this mixture of green and yellow. And then I made my motorcade stop at one point because all of a sudden off to the right-hand side was this huge DTEK wind farm. If I'm remembering correctly, those are actually GE turbines. And I congratulate Vestas, but I want to underline also that our companies are deeply, deeply committed to being part of the story of Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. Not only GE, but companies like Honeywell, Invenergy, Halliburton. And I think today's signing is so important because ultimately, when Ukraine achieves victory, the task of reconstruction is going to be enormous. Commissioner Simpson talked about the opportunity that that represents for Europe, for Ukraine to become a source of energy supply to the rest of the European Union. And energy is going to be fundamental to everything else that we want to achieve in the reconstruction space, whether it's in terms of agriculture, in terms of metallurgy, in terms of logistics, even tech. So this work that we are all doing together to help Ukraine build a future energy system that is cleaner, greener, more resilient, fully aligned with European standards is critically, critically important. I'm enormously proud of the partnership that we have built across the G7 in support of Ukraine's energy sector. In some ways, I think I talked to Dita and colleagues at the energy community, Artur Rokowski and others, more often than partners in any other part of the world, precisely because Ukraine is such a priority to the Biden administration, to the United States, and because this energy support is so fundamental. We have to remember the defeat of Putin's energy war on Europe and the energy war on Ukraine is a fundamental aspect of the larger victory we're trying to achieve. It is also one of the tools that Putin has used to try to weaken European resolve. That has obviously failed. And we have to ensure in the same way that Putin's effort to weaponize the winter against the people of Ukraine is a failure as well. As Deputy Minister Grinchuk alluded to, this is going to be a difficult winter. We see that already. The drone attacks that took place last weekend, which were the most comprehensive that we have seen since the war began. The information that the NATO Secretary General has talked about in terms of the warehousing of Iranian Shahed drones and missiles in Crimea and the potential that those will be used against energy infrastructure. We've been working very closely with the Ukrainian government on issues of passive protection. And I was glad to see the meeting that took place in Kyiv on Saturday with Deputy Prime Minister Kubrakov, with Mustafa, with Ambassador Brink and others to focus in on that challenge. I also want to say a word about Ukraine's energy workers. I think the extraordinary courage demonstrated by the workers of DTEK, of Ukrenergo, the engineers and the repairmen who have gone out in the winter, oftentimes under fire, in order to keep the grid up and running is just as important as what the Ukrainian army is doing today in Avdiivka. And I think it's understood as such. The United States is going to stand with Ukraine. President Biden has been clear on that. We have committed over $1 billion of energy sector assistance to Ukraine at this point. That is an extraordinary sum of money. And I think back on my time as ambassador, and if you had told me we had $1 billion for anything, I would have fallen off my chair. So it just gives you a sense of how much the American people are putting into our support for Ukraine. But ultimately, the task at hand and the billions of dollars of destruction that Putin has caused can only be addressed by the private sector, which is why today's signing is so important, why it's so important that Ukraine continues to stick on the pathway of reforms that will provide the confidence that allow major American and other investors to put their money into Ukraine and to take advantage of the opportunities there. And I will finish by just pointing out that I think the most important incentive that Ukraine has for these reforms is not anything that I say or anything that Commissioner Simpson says. It's what the Ukrainian people themselves are asking for, and it's the extraordinary opportunity represented in Ukraine's EU accession pathway. And having lived through the revolution of dignity and remembering what everybody was asking for on the Maidan exactly 10 years ago this week, it is worth remembering the incredible sacrifices that have been made to give the Ukrainian people the European future that they so richly deserve and have so greatly sacrificed for. And energy reform, energy progress is indispensable to that larger undertaking. So thank you for having me with you. I will be doing a lot of Ukraine at COP over the next couple of days. It's the most important thing that I do in my global portfolio. So delighted to be here and look forward to the dialogue.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Ambassador Payet for your constant support from the days of you being U.S. Ambassador in Kiev. I know that your heart with Ukraine for so many years, and we could not survive last winter and this winter without support of U.S. government, G7, our European partners, and all countries supporting us. Thank you very much for that. And I'm confident that we will survive another winter and win this energy war again. The irony is that this war accelerated green transition in Ukraine and in Europe. I think that everybody asks ourselves why Europe was so dependent on Russian fossil fuel 2 years ago. And it was done enormous work by European partners to decrease dependence or eliminate it in total. And of course, Ukraine bring their place to be one of the major players in energy security of European Union by developing renewable projects. Talking about us, we in 2019 we announced about our net zero position by 2040, and step by step we move into this target despite this war. So we made decision to build first phase of Telegul project, 114 megawatt, invested 200 million euro and commissioned in April this year. And then our goal was to complete this project, which as already said will be the largest wind farm in Eastern Europe, 500 megawatt, with total investment 650 million euro. And today it was very important announcement, not only for us and for Vestas, but for Ukraine. It's another demonstration that we are confident in our victory. We committed to our country. We demonstrated private sector can play a crucial role in the recovery of Ukraine and green transition of Ukraine. As I say often now, being experienced attacks last year, one missile destroyed 300 megawatt thermal power unit. And probably you've seen the images of complete destruction of turbine generator and all the units, which it's not possible to recover in 1 month time. But for Russians to destroy 300 megawatt of wind farm, which consists of 56 megawatt turbines, it's just impossible. It's not 50 missiles, it's just impossible. And that's just another example how important green transition for our energy security. You're right, it was GE turbines. We developing another project, 650 megawatt in Poltava region. It's going to be ready to build by end of next year. And with all respect to Vestas, our true partners, I hope that next COP we can do something similar with GE Vernova. That's my wish to you, Scout.
I think this is a perfect transition to you, Mr. Drieholm. We, Ambassador and Deputy Minister, Mr. Timchenko, talked about the changes that are happening. Of course, the private sector will play an incredibly important role in the reconstruction efforts. Of course, public money and a variety of financing will be absolutely instrumental to kick off the reconstruction efforts. But when we talk about scale, we can't do that without the private sector. So could you talk about kind of the risk assessment of this project, and as other companies are exploring of what it takes to think about investing in Ukraine, not a year from now, 2 years when the war is over, but today, what would you tell them? And
I think for us, let me just start out by saying that, this whole project here signifies sort of maybe a little forgotten detail about, the benefits of the green transition, that it's actually extremely resilient in face of wars and crisis. It's not just Ukraine, and without comparison, we have seen wind turbines spinning when we've had the Japan earthquake and Fukushima. The wind turbines were still spinning. We saw it when the heat waves in Europe and the nuclear power plants shut out, the wind turbines were still spinning. So there is the point here about resilience in building decentralized infrastructure with wind turbines at its heart. And for us, looking at DTEK, having a strong partner, bringing that resilience to Ukraine is a no-brainer for us. Of course, we are helped by the fact that we have had such a long-running relationship. We know each other, each other's teams, we know how to operate on the ground. So when we do a risk assessment of the project, it starts, of course, do you have the right partner and the right trust in that partner? I think following the other line here in terms of the reconstruction, yes, private companies and private capital, of course, are going to be essential. And there's no doubt that companies like Vestas and all the other players in the European industry, we are all eager and ready to come in and help rebuild the Ukraine after the war. But it also takes a public element. For us, we're trying to engage in, my country is Denmark. There is a specific Danish-Ukrainian energy partnership, and there's a specific focus on the Mykolaiv region. We will try and assert our competences into our national track, because we need that public side as well and have that strong public-private side as well.
Yes, thank you. You know that we adopted our new energy strategy till 2050 in April this year, and we drafted this document under rockets and missiles attack and shelling in our basement. And it is very important document for us because we want to demonstrate to our partners that, yes, we have the war, we have very difficult circumstances in Ukraine, but we are thinking about our future. And we want to develop the framework for our not just private business, for our companies, energy companies, and they need to see this future, this goal, this way which we identify for Ukraine. And for this future till 2050, we see that our energy could be climate neutral, with zero emissions, because the base of our energy system, it could be renewables energy. We have a big potential for developing different types of renewable energies: wind, solar, hydrogen, another energy sources, and also nuclear energy. And we want to demonstrate, and we know that new technologies give us this possibility to say that the renewables and nuclear, it's not the enemies, it's friends, it's partners, and we need to build our energy system like climate neutral, decarbonized system with nuclear, renewables, storages, hydrogens, with new technologies. Yes, we lost a lot of generation capacity, and now we have a good chance to rebuild Ukraine on different way, on greener, sustainable, transparent way. And I think that now we have the opportunity to change our energy, to change our economy in Ukraine, and to do this more faster than without words. Sorry, but it's true. And I think together with our state energy companies, private energy companies, with our partners, we have all the opportunities to implement our energy strategy during this next 20 years. And I think that we have a good future with this strategy.
Minister, Ambassador Pyatt, Deputy Minister mentioned several different technologies and opportunities in Ukraine. But what do you see as the low-hanging fruits in terms of the investment? And do you get a sense that the private companies in the West, the United States specifically, that they are aware that those are the key opportunities from what the question that you're hearing?
So let me start with the question of how we help our companies to identify the opportunities, because we've all watched the debate that's going on in the United States, in our Congress right now, in the EU. The EU is debating a 50 billion euro fiscal support package. The US Congress is also working through these issues. Ultimately, when I talk to Congress, and I was doing it as recently as Friday, underlining the importance of President Biden's supplemental bill, and I think a bill will be passed because the American people clearly stand with Ukraine. But what everybody wants to know is, what is the exit strategy? How long will this go on, and what replaces it? And obviously, what has to fill behind that fiscal support from outside is a revival of the Ukrainian economy. And I think the foundation of that revival is going to be the sectors where Ukraine has traditionally been successful. So metallurgy, agriculture, logistics. I think, Olga, the answer to your question then on the energy sector is the most urgent investments are the investments in energy which will facilitate the rebirth of the macroeconomy. And that's very much the way we're looking at these issues. But we have the opportunity, as Maxime said, to see that reconstruction is cleaner, greener, more decentralized, and more resilient. I think there's tremendous enthusiasm from our companies, and I've named some of them, about the opportunities in the renewables space. I think nuclear will be very, very important over the long term. And on Friday, I was speaking with my French counterpart, Pierre Hilbrun, who is the French coordinator for G7 support. And France, of course, France and Ukraine are Europe's two biggest nuclear power countries. Pierre and I agreed that we need to have an intensified U.S.-France conversation about how we support the next stages of Ukraine's nuclear sector. But that is necessarily going to be incremental because it's extraordinarily expensive. We're very excited about the opportunities for Westinghouse and the MOU between Westinghouse and Energoatom for future reactors. I also see fantastic potential for Ukraine in the SMR space. I know DTEK is talking to Rolls-Royce. Our other companies, GE, Westinghouse, Holtec, NewScale, X-Energy, all of our small reactor companies see potential in Ukraine and the potential also to grow a global supply chain for nuclear equipment. I'm probably one of the few people in this room who's been to Turboatom in Kharkiv, which is one of Europe's largest manufacturing facilities for heavy forgings like nuclear enclosures. Nobody has the capital to build another one of those. So how do we unlock that latent capacity to give Ukraine a prominent place in the global civil nuclear supply chain? The same applies for wind turbines, where the world does not have enough supply chain capacity right now. Also transformers and grid equipment, something I know GE is talking to the Ukrainian government about. So I think, the answer to your question, like everything else that has characterized Ukraine's response since the 24th of February of last year, all of the above. We need to be working as hard as we can on every single aspect of this. And I think for the US government, the good news is we are deeply, deeply committed to this effort across the Biden administration. I know that I'll have the opportunity with my Department of Energy counterpart, Andrew Light, to appear together later on a Ukraine discussion to make exactly the same point.
Thank you, Ambassador. Vestas and DTEK are leading by example in terms of showcasing the other companies, the other private sector stakeholders of what it looks like to actually invest, and not just encouraging people and saying, come partner with us, but actually putting these projects and implementing these projects. What is next for DTEK? What is next for Vestas? Let's start with you, Mr. Timchenko. What do you have in the pipeline for the upcoming project?
Probably.
No pun intended on the
So
pipeline.
what we announce is good enough to build something. But seriously, we have 13 gigawatt of capacity thermal power generation. And our long-term goal, how to replace these capacities by nuclear technologies and renewables. So this is our long-term goal. And I'm sure that we bring it as our achievement in 10-15 years time. Today, our immediate goal is to reach the final agreement with financial institutions. And I'm very grateful for support of Danish government and that. Today, we cannot get access to commercial funding without state guarantees and support of governments. And this is my strong message to our friends. Private sector will play the most important role in the recovery of Ukraine. We're ready to build. We know how to do that. We already demonstrated with first phase, but bottleneck is financing. And financing in today's situation in Ukraine only can be received with government supports, with state guarantees, with war insurance. So elements of structured finance with participation of the state. And that's extremely important for us. So talking about our pipeline, as already said, we want to finish 500 megawatt. We're in development stage of 650 megawatt project in Poltava region. Also, we have 200 megawatt project in Odessa region under development now. Yes, as it was said, Nikolaev region is strategically important to us, and it's very symbolic that it's under support of Danish government as initiative of President Zelensky, so that we allocate each of regions for different countries. And it's, very good coincidence for us that we are building the largest wind farm in Nikolaev region. And also, I think it's worth to mention that it's symbolic that we sit in here in this pavilion, and probably you've seen the consequences of Kakhovska dam, what's happened with us. And this project is to replace power supply of Kakhovska dam and also Zaporozhye nuclear power plant for this region south of Ukraine. So everything what we're doing is making changes in Ukraine, even during the war. And I think it's very important and symbolic that despite of war, despite of daily attacks of our generation facilities, we are here talking about climate, talking about green transition and future of Ukraine in the world.
Thank you so much. What ribbon cutting will Vestas do next in Ukraine?
You know, wherever Maxime takes us, we will be happy to go. And obviously, you know, whatever commercial dialogues we may have on that pipeline. But I think the most important point here is that when we are at the point of the war is ending, you know, sitting down, private sector and public sector, making that comprehensive plan. Because the fact of the matter is, as you also alluded to, Ambassador, the growth in wind right now is going to be quite significant. We're going to be seeing many markets competing to get the technology and the existing volumes that are out there. So in order to make sure we have the volume for Ukraine when the war ends, we have to have, then that comprehensive plan where we can see exactly how much to build and where, I think is going to be key to make sure that capacity is simply there. And I know the Danish government is also looking into that, and our friends in Wind Europe, who was also here, I mean, all the European industry, we will work together with Ukraine to make sure we get that plan in place, potentially also to build up supply chains to actually get some of that going.
Olga, if I can jump in on one related issue, which I should have mentioned earlier, which also is offshore wind. And just to note, my team, the State Department's ENR Bureau, has been working very closely with the government of Romania. Romania is about to promulgate a new offshore wind law. There is no reason why Romania's buildup of offshore wind should not be paralleled by what Ukraine can do in its waters, even before the liberation of Crimea. I should also say, and I'll be seeing Romanian Energy Minister Barduja in just a few minutes after this event. The partnership between Romania and Ukraine as we look to the future in this energy space will be very, very important. Obviously, Romania has played an exceptionally supportive role on Moldova, but the nature of the integration, and I failed to mention how important it was that last week ENTSO-E raised the import cap for Ukraine up to 1,700 megawatts. That is a step towards Ukraine's full integration in the European energy grid. But the Romania-Ukraine energy nexus is especially important. It connects, Maxime, to where your companies are active. It connects to the question of how Ukraine can continue to move forward, even while Zaporizhzhia remains under Russian occupation. But it also connects to the very similar interests between two countries, both of whom have a legacy oil and gas sector, both of which have a nuclear industry, both of which are Black Sea states with the potential for wind and solar that brings. So I think that's going to be another big part of the story as we look to the future. Think about Ukraine not just as a country of 40 million people, but as a real anchor of the energy transition across the southeastern quadrant of the European Union.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Just
Yes.
one remark.
Please.
Ambassador, please send my regards to Romanian Energy Minister, because just last week we commissioned a 60 megawatt project in Romania. First wind farm built for the last 10 years in this country. And that's been done with Vestas as well as 50 megawatt solar farm. These two projects are our first pilot project of ДТЕК building outside of Ukraine. So we demonstrated that we can do it not only in our own country, but also follow our expansion plans as we announced 2 years ago.
Thank you.
Also, just one remarks about offshore wind. We have very good cooperation also with our Danish partners, and we just finalized the research about offshore wind potential in Ukraine and maybe in the East European region. And I think we will present this research in our nearest future, and I think it will be very good document, very good base for future cooperation with our partners to develop this type of wind power.
Thank you so much. And there's probably also opportunities for nuclear cooperation with Romania too. That's right. No, that's very exciting. I want to return to a comment that was made earlier on this partnership of designating different European countries like Denmark to adopt, or I don't know if that's the right word, to have a region, a city that they're partnering with. So in this case, it was Denmark and Mykolaiv. What a fascinating and innovative initiative. Deputy Minister, could you expand a bit more on how that's going and kind of potential for these kinds of programs where there is this more of a direct, localized connection and opportunities to maybe make sure that no region is left behind as we talk through reconstruction and decarbonization efforts in Ukraine?
Yes, this President Zelensky initiative, which provides this support from some countries to special regions in Ukraine, it's very, very important, especially for energy sector. But we have also another mechanism for supporting our energy companies. It's an energy support fund, which we established together with European Commissioner Kadri Simpson. It was her initiative together with Minister Galushenko, and the Energy Community Secretariat is operating this fund. And now we have more than 300 million euro in this fund, and it's a big support for our energy companies because we could to produce, to purchase, to deliver, and to install very needed for them equipment just for this moment, not just equipment, fuel, and we could help with this mechanism, with this instrument for all the Ukrainians energy companies, state, public, private, and for this moment, I think it's one of the best mechanism for supporting energy in Ukraine. And also in kind support, we delivered, I think, and distributed more than 10,000 tons of energy equipment for energy companies, and energy support fund and this in-kind support for all the countries from the world is really, really important and needed mechanism now for Ukrainian energy sector.
Thank you so much. We will start taking a few questions from the audience. Samantha, please. Is there a mic, or you can have mine?
My name is Samantha from the United States. I have a question about financing. I'm wondering what has been done or what is the plans for potential financing for the international financial institutions for private sector reconstruction in Ukraine? Is that something the Ukrainian government has spoken with, or maybe the Americans have spoken with IFIs on? Is that something that we could potentially use to catalyze additional decarbonization projects?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, some part of this energy support fund, it's money just for rebuild, reconstruction, recovery, the green projects. Also, we started the discussion with IRENA for establishing the new mechanism for attracting the green finance, sustainable finance for recovery, Ukrainian energy sector. And yes, under also J7 platform, and we have special donors platform. We discussed every time with our partners how to attract the green sustainable finance for Ukraine energy sector recovery.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? I have plenty of mine, but did you want to respond to any of the comments and think about additional questions from the audience here, Mr.
Yeah,
Deputy?
probably I can add to that based on our own example. Today, absolute priority for IFIs active in Ukraine is to work with state-owned companies. And I think this trend should be changed. We haven't received any state support since war started. Unfortunately, we couldn't get access to IFIs. And as it was already said, such scale of project can be only realized in partnership. Partnership between companies and partnership between companies and governments. And today I urge IFIs, EBRD, EIB, DFC, other institutions to take seriously demands and requests of private sector. As I said, bottleneck is access to capital. For us, it is impossible to get access to commercial funding, commercial banks, without participation of IFIs or state guarantees. And I think that we need to be much more active from Ukrainian government and from IFIs active in Ukraine to let us get access to this funding. Otherwise, we can only make declaration but not build. In this case, it's a good example when Danish government supported us in this project, supported us and investors and ДТЕК, and we can make it real. And I think it's a very good example for other governments and IFIs, how we should build relations with private sector.
Thank you so much. We have another question from the audience.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. Thank you, panelists. It's a really very important discussion. My name is Natalia Katzer-Bochkovska. I'm founder of Ukrainian Sustainable Fund and former member of parliament. So today, as you know, here at the fields of COP28 is a Green Finance Day. And everyone is talking about how much money we can attract to green reconstruction and rebuilding. So there is a clear vision that the financial sector is transforming, world financial sector. And from the other side, we have this necessity to rebuild Ukraine, and it's a generational problem for us. But at the moment, there is not too much overlap between green finance in general as on a global level and Ukrainian reconstruction, just little. So I would say we should think a little bit maybe more and to create special green funds, special green finance for Ukrainian reconstruction in order to make Ukrainian reconstruction green, technological, sustainable. We have this really historical chance to involve and to change the country because of this situation from the one side, from the other side, because now the big movement toward green and sustainability. So how do you think it is possible to make more bridges between what's going on here in the world on green finance side and the reconstruction of Ukraine?
Thank you for that question, Natalia. And I think part of the challenge is we're trying to do two things at the same time. We have to help Ukraine win. We have to make sure Ukraine survives this week, this winter, and we have to prepare for the future. Right now, in terms of U.S. assistance, and as I said, we've put a lot of money on the table for the energy sector. The U.S. government, U.S. taxpayers are providing more than $1 billion a month to Ukraine right now. That's money which is used to pay salaries for first responders, for teachers, for public sector workers, to keep the Ukrainian state afloat while you fight this war of aggression. I think the long-term investment that you're focused on, that's going to come from the IFIs in particular. So it's very important. The messaging from the Ukrainian government to the EBRD, to the World Bank is particularly important because the reconstruction process is going to be owned by Ukrainians. And that's a core principle for the United States. But I absolutely hear your point. And I think one of the arguments that I have found most compelling when I talk to our members of Congress and to companies is to underline our view of Ukraine in the future, not as a charity case, but as an opportunity. It's an opportunity for the reasons that Dita and Commissioner Simpson talked about, because Europe is going to need a lot of green energy to power its future. And let's remember, Europe is filling a hole in its energy supply that's 130, 140 BCM a year, which is what Europe used to import of Russian gas. There will be no return to business as usual with Vladimir Putin, and the United States will work as hard as we can to make sure that's the case. So under those circumstances, Europe is going to be an energy importer, and Ukraine is a natural source of much of that supply. But you've got to make the foundational investments in generation, in capacity to address that. And that's where the financing challenge that Maxime talked about is so important.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. We are running out of time, so we'll do one final Robin where we'll just kind of go down this way with the final question. Look, we're here at COP. COP28. And there's so much happening. There are over 70,000 people who are here from all over the world, governments, nonprofits, civil society, NGOs. What advice would you have for, people, in terms of the kind of questions to ask, in terms of how to have an efficient and effective time here at COP, especially for those stakeholders who are interested in Ukraine, in investing in Ukraine or partnering in Ukraine, but also for stakeholders who perhaps have been kind of on the sidelines, just kind of, observing what's going on and trying to figure out what is their best angle for engagement. What kind of advice, depending on, your perspective, would you give to people on how to have a very impactful the next 10 days here at COP?
In general, I mean, we love the pledges coming out of the COP, right? Now 120 countries signing up for tripling of renewables. You also mentioned it, Maxime, Ukraine is going in the same direction. But we've been at this wind business here for plus 40 years now. I mean, we're all about getting stuff in the ground and in the sea, we want action. And so the role we have as a company here is really to pull all that experience we have and say, how do you actually do that? What is the actual local mechanisms you need to have in place in order to go for a tripling of renewables? And how do we apply that also into Ukraine that has some special circumstances right now? That's all what we're about. We're here to give that advice because governments needs to have it, because it's very easy to go away from here and say, we made a pledge, we're tripling renewables, but we're all about action. Let's get it done.
I think it's really simple. Understand the stakes involved in Ukraine, that we're not going to build the kind of prosperous, sustainable future that COP is seeking to achieve if Vladimir Putin is not stopped. And so Ukraine is ground zero for building that kind of common future. It's enormously important to Europe's future security, but also you see the ripple effects in the developing world from Russia's weaponization of Ukraine's grain supplies. You see the ripple effects from Putin's weaponization of his energy. We have to meet that on its terms. I think it's incredibly important that that Ukraine is again present here at this COP pavilion. And I know we'll have a number of members of Congress coming to COP over the next weekend, both Republicans and Democrats. And I hope that the Ukraine team will make sure that they all come by here to see some of this and to understand the stakes involved.
From our side, just follow the motto we've seen all around. Unite, act, and deliver. And lead by example. In our case, Unite is building partnership with Vestas, Danish government, and financial institutions. Act is real construction of wind farm, which will be shown over the next 2 years. And deliver green power to Ukraine, Ukrainians, and to European Union. This is our ultimate goal for that.
When this COP started and we had joint meeting together with our partners and to announce a nuclear declaration, at the same moment, we had AIDS blackout in Zaporizhia nuclear station. And we had very dangerous situation for all the goals which we announced here in Ukraine during the COP28. And we need to understand all that we are fighting in Ukraine, not just for Ukraine or Ukrainians, people, energy, economy. We are fighting for our global future. And we need to have this win together, because it's very important for our sustainable, green, climate neutral future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. And thank you to our fantastic audience for being here today, for your questions. I hope that you check out the rest of the programming at this gorgeous, also heartbreaking Ukraine Pavilion, and learn more about the displays and the pictures, and ask the ministries and others who are here to tell you more some of the stories here. Thank you all for joining. Thank you to our panelists. I also want to remind you to join the Global Energy Forum, the Atlantic Council Global Energy Forum, on December 5th and 7th. So please come talk to me if you need some information on how to register for that. Please give it up for our fantastic panelists today.
Are you around for a couple of days?
Yes, yes, tomorrow, I think we have 30 minutes closing the morning, so around.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. So you guys are going to do a press release or something on asbestos?
Where I was Deputy Minister of Environment Protection last year, and I graduated